We're live, supposedly.
Sweet. We did it.
We did it. Okay, I guess I'll leave this up. This lets me see the chat room, so that's kind of good. Okay, let's... We'll launch a vanilla template for now.
Sweet. Got some folks in the chat.
Oh, awesome. Excellent. Sorry, I'm reading... While Unreal is loading, I am reading some stream statistics or something like that. It's saying I have a low bit rate. So I don't know if we're... Hey, Charles, are we coming through? What does our resolution look like?
I've got the stream up on my laptop, and it's looking good
Does it
over
look
there.
okay?
I'm not listening to it, but
Okay. Yeah, I don't know okay, we want vanilla. Should we go third persons? Just like a live stream. Stream 01.
folks in chat are saying it looks and sounds great.
Good. Yeah, let me know if my voice gets noisy because I have a fan behind me because it's starting to get warmer here, and
Finally.
yeah,
Loving the
well,
weather.
yeah, but I have like two computers in this room.
Yeah,
so
it does get toasty, that's for sure.
All right, cool. Okay, yeah, so let's yeah, look cool. People are here. Awesome. Welcome. So I guess we should do some quick intros. Hello, my name is Dan Reynolds. I've been working in games for 20 years.
Had to go and count them.
Well, I guess 19. I don't know. I now it's actually well, it's long enough that I have a hard time remembering when I started.
There you go. Good way to put it.
And as probably most of you know, I currently work at Epic Games as a senior technical audio designer. I am joined by Eric Buchholz. Is that the correct pronunciation of your name?
Sure.
No,
there are many pronunciations. I hear all of them, so it's all the same to me.
Why don't you
yeah,
let people know who you are?
I'm Eric Buchholz is kind of how the
Okay,
Americans say
Buchholz.
it, but
Okay.
the Germans say Buchholz, but it depends on who you're talking to. I am a technical audio designer at Epic, and I've been here for about a year and a half now, as of yesterday, actually. So officially
Congrats.
18 months.
Nice.
I can still count them, so still fairly new. But before Epic, I was actually doing a lot of music for games, TV, films, etc., on like orchestration and recording and like live music sorts of things. That was a lot of fun. During pandemic, I'm like, hey, like Unreal UE5 is coming out. Like it looks awesome. Like MetaSounds are cool. Just wanted to kind of dive in and see what I could do with it, and ended up falling in love with everything Unreal had to offer. So during the pandemic, everyone's learning how to make sourdough and other craft hobbies and stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to learn Unreal. That's going to be my pandemic hobby. And yeah, did that, I guess, 3 or so years before I started at Epic. And yeah, it's been going very well.
Well, I'll say I'm happy to have you on this stream to join me with this because you seem very competent, very capable. So yeah, it should be
It's
exciting.
it's an honor to be on here, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like, I remember, I don't know how many years ago. It was before I even started on Real like that. I found your YouTube, and now we're here. So thanks for having me.
Well, I'm glad it was didn't dissuade you from from the work. Cool. Yeah. So while Unreal loads up the hardest part, which is between 42 and 44%, while it loads up, I kind of want to sort of state the premise of this. I hope maybe several of these that we do. And that is the idea is to like hang out and chat and also do technical audio design. So so
Just do
we'll
things.
yeah, do things. Well, yeah, so the cuz I've been on podcasts before about game audio, and I always feel like there are some limits to what you can actually sort of dig into. A lot of the formats sort of talk about news or sort of like very surface level concepts. And so the idea here is like we can do all of that and also demonstrate technical sound design.
We must
Um,
go deeper.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's because here's the thing: is my feeling is that, um, and this is actually something that I've debated when because I make lots. Obviously, I make a lot of videos about stuff, about sort of technical audio design. But the what happens is I think that I oftentimes feel like I need the very sort of concise presentation where it's like, okay, here's the thing I made, and this is how I made it, and this is all this stuff, and here's it working. And then sometimes I feel like I have to show it working first. Like people will be like, "Ah, it's too much talking. Get out of here," you know.
You
Uh,
gotta play the algorithm. You
yeah,
gotta.
exactly. And that's sort of I don't like that. I mean, I don't know if I try to disable things like show me how many people like or not like this video because I don't like having to play that game. I'm not trying to build like a YouTube brand or something like that, you know. So that's not important to me. All I care about is that like we have. My feeling is that when we share what we do and how we do things, we kind of like all get better together. That's kind of how I feel about the sort of I've always been very open about like how I like for the first half of my career I did a lot of music production, and I just used to share like templates like my orchestra
Yeah.
templates and stuff like that. And so that's what I feel. It's like I feel like we can all um that we shouldn't be selfish in terms of like our techniques or the things that we figure out. Um, because we can kind of like I'm sort of a like rising tides lift all boats kind of that's my vibe. So so yeah, so I feel like there's value in doing a problem like getting presented with a challenge of some sort of thing we have to do. And then planning it and solving it and working through the whole thing and running into if there's we're gonna I imagine we're gonna run into issues along the way, challenge things that we're like, oh, that was a dumb idea, or this was the wrong path, on the maze, and then we'll figure out some other alternative or we'll fix it or whatever. So that's sort of the idea, is to kind of like show the process. um
It's
so
almost never a straight line, right? Like there's
it's no,
always.
it's not. Yeah, there's a lot of I think this is not really obvious. Because there's also this thing about YouTube and videos in general where it's like there's a projection that like you're the expert, like, oh, I'm the expert, and whereas in reality is there's like a lot of X factors. You're just the job is in my feeling is that the job is a lot of like learning and research. Like I will get problems. I'm like, the reason I get problems because there's not a way to do this thing, and then they're like, we want to be able to do this thing, And I'm like, that's a good idea, or maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe we can do it this way. But whatever it is, we sort of realize there's something we have to do. Create a new pathway of doing this thing. Oftentimes it's connecting like gameplay data to wherever the audio is doing its thing. Just bringing the data over so you can do stuff with it. Or like activate things based off of events that happen in games. And so I feel like there's a lot of situations that I'm presented with where it's like, okay, I don't know. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to figure this out. And it's oftentimes me like going into places where audio people haven't tread yet, you know, or sometimes it's like creating wholesale new systems where it's like we just don't have a way to handle this, and we need to be able to do that. So I feel like, and that isn't really an obvious part. Like it's one of those things that I like. For example, I grew up, like I think a lot of us, at least my age or so, maybe between our ages, where like I grew up with a lot of behind the scenes, like learning about sound design and music, with like behind the scenes DVDs or behind the scenes video, like featurettes or whatever. And I got to a point when I was actually doing work where I was like, hey, I feel like I was lied to. Because, like no one's showing the composer's like copyist. Like no one's showing the person who's doing the orchestration. Like there's all these people that are involved in the project that aren't being sort of showcased in these like featurettes. And I feel like the same thing is with the game audio, game development in general, and then game audio on the outside. It's not obvious like what's going on, or the fact that it's okay. Like you're gonna buckle up. You're gonna have to learn stuff. You're gonna have to figure stuff out. You're gonna have to solve problems that are new to you at least. So,
and I think you just summed it up there with two words: solve problems. Like
yeah.
that's the name of that's the whole job basically.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. Everyone in game development is solving some kind of problem. I mean, some people are creating problems.
A little bit of both. Yeah. But ideally, we're creating or solving more than we're creating.
Game development is a problem generator. Yeah. So that's the idea. That's the format. That okay. So yeah, let's get into the nuts and bolts of how I think this will go, and we'll see if it does go that way. And that is, my thinking is, okay, we'll Iron Chef a problem. We've talked a little bit before, like Eric and I have already sort of discussed maybe some ideas ahead of time. I also asked the community when I said I was thinking about live streaming again, like, what do you want to see? What the topics do you want covered? And there was a lot. There weren't, I wouldn't say there was overwhelming consensus in any specific domain. There was just a lot of stuff. I think there was some stuff that where people, I would say this, there were asks that I felt were probably a little bit on the introductory side, and that's not bad, but I don't know if this is exactly the venue to go over like that kind of stuff, but maybe along the way we'll sort of cover it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we could do more novel things, I think, that don't really get talked about so much would be kind of cool, I think. But I'm open to whatever. Like, if we want to just, ask the chat or take one of the ideas someone sent. Or...
Yeah. So the thinking, like the fallback idea that I had was something like that BFXR, because I remember when I was not starting out, but I remember at some point when I was doing sound design work with indies, that came up, and it was something that like people were using, like like non-audio people were using to like just randomly generate sounds. They're like just pressing the random button over and over again to make, and eventually like arriving at a bunch of sounds that were usable. I think it was really popular at like game jams and stuff like that for a while. I don't know if it's still like that. There was like a period where like indies were just all about the retro sounds, and that thing is like a retro sound machine. So I was thinking we could make something like that. There were some people who talked about mixing stuff. There were like mix, like a mix system or approaching mixing. There were some people who talked about MetaSounds in general. There's a lot of people who are interested in MetaSounds, obviously. It could be fun to do something with the MetaSound Builder API.
Yeah.
Whatever we do, so this time around, I think we made just the only caveat is that this time around we made the sort of took the stance that we wouldn't be using C++ just to sort of like not scare people away. But it's not to say that we won't in the future. But just on this particular exercise, no. So the idea is whatever we pick, we'll go through the whole planning process, whiteboarding things out. The goal is to create a thing, whatever it is, that is designed for, well, I guess it's going to be some kind of system probably, because this is kind of the layout is kind of like a system. But like we're designed for like non-technical audio designer team members, right? So we have technical sound designers and so-called non-technical sound designers, and you know, in our sort of team makeup, and we want to create something that makes it very convenient for them to do something. And this actually brings up something else. I wanted to sort of, this was like one of the big impetuses for this was like a colleague of mine was complaining about like something taking 2 hours when in like middleware it would take them 5 minutes. And my like sort of response was like, if I spend 2 hours on something, then it's 5 minutes for everyone else to do that thing. Because that to me is the role. The job is like, a lot of times I'm doing something that like accelerates or multiplies other parts of the team's ability to do things, right? So
Creating those new pathways.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It could be as simple as that, right? Like it could be as simple as like, I need to connect these two things that aren't yet connected. And now someone can go in there, you know, that might be an afternoon of work. And then someone can go in there and just be like, do it all the time, you know, in the future. Or it could be like, hey, I'm going to spend a couple weeks building a brand new system that doesn't exist. That will be like, that will live the life of the project or the game or whatever. So yeah, so the idea is to do that, to build that, and then to create a like workflow for the sound designers, and maybe, I mean, I expect along the way we'll be prototyping with it, whatever it is, but probably implementing also some debug features, just to make sure, you know, it's easy to see what's going on. I guess that's usually you want to build those things anyway while you're building something.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't know if it's working yet. Like sometimes you just need that log data or whatever to get that feedback. Cool, yeah. So and then that's the idea. So we'll be doing these in 2-hour shots. That's because I've sort of realized that like if I talk for more than 3 hours, it like really just lays me out. Like I'm like, it exhausts me. So I'm sort of like putting a hard limit. And you know, this is obviously we've done a lot of intro here, but yeah. So we'll be cutting off at 8, and then we'll decide then how long we want to wait. But it could be something we do every week, which would be really really cool. And then we'll just go until we finish the thing. And I might, if I have time, I might edit a highlights video, but that's it. I'm not making any promises on that one.
That's so for the algorithm.
Yeah, yeah. Stupid algorithm. Um, so cool. Are there questions in the chat? I don't know what the delay is. So yeah, just ask questions.
Yeah, or if anyone wants to throw out an idea for what we can jam on, or
Yeah.
I think that the BFXR thing would be cool just because it, a little bit of meta sounds, a little bit of widget action,
Hmm.
um, cover some of those bases, or
Yeah, we could. Excuse me. We could use like the editor widgets to like make a little mini UI for like authoring stuff. Because I like the
yeah,
idea of like randomizing. I think that's fun, um, and it's kind of like a fun thing to sort of like. It's not like a very serious topic, but it's neat. It's a neat idea. So
it's maybe less practical for like
yeah,
gameplay system wise, but
right.
there's all sorts of applications for generating assets and tool widgets and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah. We'll let the chat give them like I don't know 15 seconds or whatever. It looks like someone said there's like 15 seconds.
no response
No
means
response.
yes.
Yeah, people are like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
They're all
just do the
making.
thing
They're all
already.
making. They're making dinner.
We're the background noise.
That's right. That's right. Well, all right. So I have a third-person template loaded up here, but I also have this. Let me just swap this out. Let me swap the thing. Cool. So now we have MS Paint. MS Paint is going to be our quick and dirty whiteboard, and I'm going to go fancy on MS Paint because I'm broadcasting from my art room. I have a Cintiq, which is cheating. Okay. Oh, maybe I turn on. Okay, my Cintiq is having a hard time, so forget that. We'll just do it the
Do
hard
you,
way.
do you want to maybe explain to folks what BFXR is before we?
Oh, actually, that's a really good idea. Um, so BFXR is it used to be, maybe it still is online. Maybe you have to download Flash. Like no one ever uses Flash anymore. Um, but it's a like fun little utility that and actually maybe I can just bring it up here. Do we have a does it I don't have the Flash player. Do we have a picture of it on the do they didn't do like a picture of it.
There might be like a YouTube demo video that if you
Yeah.
wanted to just show that, but
So well, I don't want to do like YouTube Inception here. Sure. Yeah, we could do this. So it's free advertisement for this person. It's just this sort of like weird sound design interface. And what it is effectively like a very simple FM synthesizer setup. Where you have a sort of single tone generator and then a bunch of modulators. And they have sort of built in methods. So they have like an ADSR kind of setup here.
I don't think you're showing it on stream.
Oh, sorry. Boop. Yeah, here we go. Open source games. You can watch this video. And basically, what it is you have sort of a synth source, and you can see like some canonical waveforms in here. Uh, some and some non-canonical waveforms. and, and then you have various modulators, right? So attack time, sustain time, punch, um, which is just another kind of envelope, right? Decay time, compression, frequency. So this is like dynamics. And then we have sort of bass frequency, and then we have what appears to be like some frequency modulation. This may or may not be a filter. You have vibrato, so an LFO, right? This I think is part of a slide, like so it's just like it's basically an envelope segment, I guess you could call it, and how fast it's modulating the frequency. So you can it effect yeah. So then you have like some jumps. They have like these pitch jumps, which is used for like the coin sounds, like ba-ding, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the amount and the onset, and then you have this. I assume is if you have a square wave selected, and maybe these options come online. Square duty or duty cycle is usually describing the rectangle or the pulse wave width, and then a sweep would be sweeping that, right? And then this is yeah, so there's repeat, and there's maybe some other ones down there. Low pass filters. There's the actual filters. This I think is like the frequency start and end point or something like that. Anyway, it's basically a bunch of synth parameters, and you could sit here and twiddle knobs all day. What they have are some presets built in. The idea being, I think, that you could just be like, oh, I'll pick one of these and then tweak off of those, right? So like sort of preset surfing method. But the fun of it is when you get into randomize. And when you randomize, it'll randomize these values. Oh yeah, I think mutation, if I remember, mutation like slightly moves, like it's like a minor adjustment to randomly adjusting elements.
And there's lock icons,
There's
so you
locks,
can prevent them from
yeah.
randomizing certain things that you like.
And yeah, so then you can export the wave, which is what usually you do. Now I've built something like this before. If you look at one of my older YouTube videos, I have a video on it was like genetic breeding UI sounds or procedural UI sounds or something like that. So it was similar to this, except for the fact that it didn't have it didn't expose any of the parameters. So all the parameters were concealed. And it just randomized them, and then you could sort of weight the randomization by putting a bunch of them together and saying, I want you to randomize off of these existing parameters, these presets. And that was fun because though it gave you a lot of interesting variation, and some of it was like it allowed you sort of hone in on what sort of sound you're looking for, while getting a lot of variation out of it. So it's
a discovery tool, really.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is a nice sort of middle ground between sort of raw just sound design. Like, I'm a synthesist, and so generally speaking, I know what happens when I twiddle a knob. Usually. But so if you take those two extremes where it's like there are no parameters, it's all randomization and sort of trying to narrow your random parameters by selection, which is why it's called like genetic selection. And the sort of other extreme where it's like just raw parameters. This is kind of like a nice middle ground where it's like, okay, you can sort of do the random thing and you can sort of start off some presets, but you see all the parameters and then you can tweak them. And then if you're like, oh, this is the thing that I don't want to change between randoms, then it's like very easy to sort of pin down. So yeah, so that's and then I also like that it exposes the parameters for you. So yeah, if we were to do something like this, I think that'd be kind of fun. I mean, we don't have to do exactly like this, but the sort of idea is there, maybe.
Yeah, should we take out the MS Paint and come
Yeah.
up with a?
Let me I guess I'll put this in the background for now. And my it looks like I'm not going to be able to be fancy because my Wacom is like having a hard time. Oh, now it's sorry. Oh, now I don't know what's going on. I just lost
no.
everything. What in the world? Oh my. Okay. Yeah. There you go. The screen just reset itself. So
Is it like did it detect a new input or something?
I
And
don't know
so
what happened. Yeah. Sorry if it just the screen goes blank or I don't know. The screen
I think we're still streaming.
are we still good? Let me see. Maybe it works now. Now it works. Great. Yeah. So
Perfect.
yeah, I think there's some issue that this Wacom has. It's a little bit old. It's probably like 5-6 years actually old. So I guess for technology that's a little bit long in the tooth. But yeah. So okay. All right.
Let's get to work.
Let's get to work. Okay.
So
oh yeah. Sorry. Would you want to?
no, I was just gonna suggest a place to start.
Okay. Yeah. Go for it.
We can start with like what parameters or like what data do we want to store and present to users?
This is actually a really good thing to talk about because there are usually two different approaches that you want to take, and sometimes you take both, sometimes you take one or the other, and that is you take the approach of sometimes it's called top down and bottom up.
Yeah.
In other words, like what is the like working the problem in from the user's perspective or working the problem in from the like core of the architecture perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes I find personally, I don't know, maybe you can talk about your own experiences, but I find that a lot of times I will kind of do both. I'll work in for a certain amount of time and then I have to come in and like, and I have to do some on the other side and then I got to come in on the other side.
It's definitely both. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't have a preference towards like which side of both that I start with, but usually it's just kind of where's the inspiration right now? Like what do I have a clear idea of what the user experience should be? If I do, then I'll start with that. Otherwise,
yeah. So here's a question then. Because we're using BFXR as sort of like the model. Mm-hmm. But BFXR's sort of approach is to generate content and export it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I would ask is should we make a utility, since we were already talked about maybe using the MetaSound builder, mm-hmm. This kind of makes sense, to build a MetaSound and spit that MetaSound out so it can be played? Or do we create a system that intakes the edited data, the authored data, and then generates a MetaSound on the fly and plays it during runtime? This makes sense? Like that's the...
Yeah. Are you throwing that one to me?
I'm throwing out to I don't have yeah. Uh,
I
uh,
think if we were doing something where we were, maybe using samples or like more rich content and stuff, like then I would do the route of like spitting out assets. But I think since everything is more or less data driven from
I
BFXR,
know.
it would make more sense to just kind of cram these parameters into this MetaSound. It can build it on the fly, or it can be like a standalone asset that reads from like that we push the data into it.
Right.
Um, but I think at that point, the MetaSound is just a shell through which we're um, realizing these parameters.
So we talked about like a editor utility, the sort of UMG driven, right? That could be the authoring point. So we imagine our user sort of using this, and then maybe what are we editing? I mean, we're editing a data struct of some kind, right? Are we editing a um, data asset? Is that the thing that we intake?
Data assets are nice.
Or do we make it like an object?
Sorry, there's a leaf blower outside my door right now. I
Oh,
don't know if y'all can hear it,
I
but
can't hear it. Yeah, you
I'm
sound
gonna let
you
it
sound all right to me.
Okay, cool.
Zoom's doing its like thing, so
That's impressive. It's very loud.
because we could because we could spit out a meta sound, and then they could use it wherever they want, right? Like wherever
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah,
are
that is
played, right?
a bit more flexible, more
Yeah,
portable.
yeah, because then you have all of the features of the regular engine to like play and debug and all this sort of other stuff that
Yeah, yeah.
sort of all those sort of come for free. Um, and then because that's the thing is like because the data has to live somewhere and it could live on the medicine itself.
I mean, that's a good point, like if we're going to store all these parameters, why not just put it into the MetaSound doc?
Right. And it could be that we end up building like because this is kind of modular. Like if you break down all the sort of elements, there's an envelope generator and there's an LFO and there's sort of like we'll have some modular elements. We'll have some elements that maybe are always there,
Yeah.
or dynamically added, um, like
And I
dynamically turned
assume
on and off, and there's some that'll be swapped out. Sorry, go ahead.
I assume for the sake of the stream that we're planning to make a mega sound that can handle all the parameters, or are we leaning towards doing a spit out this asset with these nodes sort of thing? Because we could do both, and it might be better stream-wise if we start with the mega sound and then kind of chunk it into
Oh,
um
like a You're talking about like a prototype.
yeah, let's prototype it out and then do it in Builder after we're done.
So we prototype in MetaSounds first, and then based on the success of that, we um, can then sort of determine what kind of modules we'll need. So we'll have our little graph. Our mixer node.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Your generic meta sound presenting. Uh, And then we'll have a editor utility that maybe we chunk it out in like nodes and patches. Because there's probably gonna be some structures that will always be like, if it's like, oh, this is a filter mod with like driven by like its own envelope segment or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
then that's what we'll do, is we'll just have, those paired together and like a little patch or something like that. We'll keep the patch depth to just one level max.
I like
Um,
this.
you know, and then yeah, okay. So then the sort of data will determine um, whether we sort of dynamic add modules, patches, and nodes.
And so one thing about kind of the routing of the patches and stuff, like in BFXR, you can't like change the order of the chain or anything, right?
No.
So there's no like there's kind of like one MetaSound graph, and then you're just enabling and disabling parts of it to get the effects and like set the parameters, right?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I think BFXR is even simpler than that.
Okay.
Like, it's the only thing that I saw was actually modular were like the parameters that were specific to pulse waves.
Sure. Yeah.
So
That's good.
that's
I mean, we could open up a whole can of worms and do like, you
like
know,
a little mini modular synth. Like, yeah, I mean, it
yeah.
could get really complicated.
I'm just thinking from the widget side that because like at that point you're just making a new graph
Yeah,
to represent a built MetaSound
yeah,
builder.
exactly.
But maybe someday we'll do builder inception,
Well, yeah,
a
I mean,
builder builder.
yeah, well, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that. Obviously, but the but I'm thinking that so this is one of the benefits of this building this thing, which we kind of touched on before, is that you don't have to know the MetaSound graph to make the thing.
Right.
So that to me is kind of like the appeal. And this is the thing that's maybe not, like, we talk about MetaSound graphs. The long-term vision of MetaSounds is not for everyone to be working in the graph. The graph building is only meant to be something that is handled by the few folks who feel comfortable doing that work. Whereas maybe the rest of the team, if you've got like a big team, they don't open the graph at all, and either they're using presets or something like we're doing. So,
Yeah.
or something that hasn't been done yet, like in terms of the MetaSound roadmap. So
Get some sliders and knobs
yeah,
and
exactly.
make something skeuomorphic is a
Skew morphic.
very cool word.
There's no W in that. Disappointingly.
We can add one.
We can
It'll be our
just add one.
trademark.
There's only one U. There's a uni U. All right, so it sounds like we need to do some prototyping.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to start would be let's just get, you know, select which wave you want, and we can build from like beginning to end horizontally, and then we can start adding
Yeah, let me
kind of the patches and stuff vertically.
let me just add a MetaSound. Just like boom. And then I'll just bring that editor up. We can add that. Boop. There we go. And it spits out mono, so that's pretty easy. We don't have to change that. Yeah, they're all one shots, so that's an interesting thing. We'll have to think about the like the how to determine duration. And that might be something that's parameterizable.
Mm-hmm.
Let me bring up. Let's take a look at the BFXR thing again here. Just sort of bring it up. And like I said, it's not. We don't have to make any exactly like it. We just want sort of like it's the model of what we're shooting for.
It's gonna be better.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be MetaSoundy.
We're gonna have knobs.
We'll have
And
knobs. Yeah,
yeah,
more
it's
than
not gonna be just
sliders.
sliders. Nothing against sliders, but
Sliders
come
are all
on,
right. I mean, you can fit a lot of them in a small space.
It's true.
All right. So yeah, so we've got a variety of generators. We have this is an interesting one. Is they have repeat. This is something that I also built in like one of my early experiments with procedurally generated UI sounds. This was not the thing that I made for the Game Sound Con talk, which I've made a video of. But another thing that I made, which was like a soundboard. This was back in 2018. I think we ended up showing it at GDC 2018. I wasn't there that year, but I think we did show it. And that was basically a soundboard, and it generated UI sounds every time you could refresh the board. And and one of the things that I did was like one of the options was to like I had an option to repeat the sound. I had an option to reverse the sound. So like play it forwards and then backwards.
Yeah.
And those are both interesting. Like the results were both interesting. So we could do duration as a parameter pretty easily. And that could just be done with a simple ADSR. We could have like an ADSR with a sustained time. And I'm not going to add, I don't feel like we should add a compressor. The compressor seems like overkill. Like our compressor's like a analog model compressor.
Let's just start with something simple, and then as inspiration strikes, we'll just keep adding more things to it.
Yeah, let's start with triangle, because that's sort of where they started with theirs. And it's somewhere between a square and a sine wave, like that. So we got a triangle. And let's do ADSR. Do we want a fast one? Let's do this. This will just be for volume.
Well, so let's ask that question. Like, when would you use the audio envelope versus the float envelope?
Yeah, and actually, maybe what does that mean? What is the difference?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So yeah, with the there are inside you are two wolves, an audio rate wolf and a block rate wolf. So the audio everything. So this is something is everything in MetaSounds happens at the block rate. But audio is more precise because this float value, updates every block rate, which is currently 100 times a second. And this one updates at 100 times a second. But within that update is 480 values. So, in other words, each chunk is an array of 480 floats values. So, if you're trying to express a change, right? So, like an envelope generator generates a contour, a shape, a curve. If you're trying to express change over time, this one updates at 100 times a second, and this one updates at, well, effectively 48,000 times a second. So if you think about your video refresh rate, which if you're all gamers, then it's probably like 122 hertz or something like that, then this is slower than your video update. And this is faster than your video update by a lot.
Quite a bit, yeah.
By a lot, yeah.
For now, at least.
So, okay, so then, yeah. So if you put all your student of digital audio caps on, And y'all remember, this is the thing I used to do to my students when I was teaching a long time ago. Like, do y'all remember your Nyquist theorem? Oh yeah, you're not looking at. Hold on a second. Let me do that again. Do y'all remember your Nyquist theorem? I gotta give him the eyeball. Yeah. Do you remember your Nyquist theorem? Yeah. So it's the same idea, right? If we want to update at a fast rate, and we want to be able to express those values, then we need to have a high frequency sample of those changes as they progress. Because underneath the hood is basically the same function. So
It's just more precise, and you're
it's
not
just
going
more
to hear
precise. Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
stepping and stuff. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's oftentimes called zippering. When you try to, if especially this is like something you experience with like MIDI continuous controllers, right? Because MIDI continuous controllers have like a value resolution of like 128 values, and so when you're trying to, there's some kinds of parameters that like when you update in those at that low resolution, that's sort of like a depth rate resolution rather than a sample rate resolution, but it has sort of similar connotations. So that's the concern, and so your shape has to move slow if it's gonna be a float rate. Now, this is the envelope for the whole sound. So presumably, this is just gonna be modulating a volume output, and its volume is I don't anticipate like needing a high resolution.
you could always lerp it if you needed to.
Yeah. The expense difference would be negligible, I think. I mean, it's there, but there's a lot of optimizations that we have around audio buffer math. So that's not really like a reason to decide one or the other. But let's just start with the float and see what happens.
Yeah, let's get back in.
Yeah. Okay. That was fun. All right, so let's let's just connect these two. So we know this is going to be the lifetime. This will end up also managing the lifetime of our sound. And then the duration will be from the onset of the sound, which begins the attack. And then we'll indicate the release of the sound. So let's put a very simple trigger delay to delay the trigger to complete the sound. And if we wanted to, we could deduct the math from the release. But I think for right now, it should just be like the...
Yeah, well, I think we're fine.
Yeah. And then should I do a mult? Let's just do a multiply. Will that confuse people?
No.
We'll explain it. So the envelope outputs a value of between 0 and 1. And the audio signal is... oops. Sorry, I'm trying to get these windows all managed properly. The audio signal is from -1 to 1. And so if you multiply a value of any value by 1, it'll be the same value, and when you multiply it by 0, it will be 0. And anything in between there will be some scaled value between there. So it's to the original value all the way down to nothing. And so this is basically your amplifier architecture, and their envelope. This is like the same as this, which is like this is amp. That's basically how it works. Mixing is summing. That's why it's called summing. And amps are scalars, basically. So, so yeah, so we have our triangle. Look, here we go. Let's go. Beautiful. That was gorgeous. I think we're done. No. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing, well, so we did the ADSR. We also have some sort of frequency. We'll call this some sort of frequency modulation. It's like a frequency slide. But we also have vibrato, right? So that's also
Yeah.
sort of, in this case, would be driven by a low frequency oscillator, and it has depth and speed. So we'll need an LFO with a frequency input and a amplifier on that. We'll have to control its scale, how big it is, how big the
Same idea.
shape is. And then we will want to also have a base frequency. So this, I assume, is our sort of base fundamental frequency, our starting point. And then we'll have some kind of start and end slide. So I assume that this I hate this term cutoff. Because I believe that this is the ending frequency. In other words, you have a starting and ending frequency.
The target frequency.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
And then the slide, I believe, is the well, I don't know what that means.
Would that be
Delta
like
is the change in slide, so maybe that's the curve. There's a change.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of those is the curve.
Yeah, and the slide
Timing onset, or,
could be the timing. Yeah, could be the timing. That actually makes that would. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, it makes sense. Those are good parameters. So
yeah, we can do whatever.
Yeah. And then I think we could use the vibrato as part of the modulator input, because this is one of the things that's sort of nice about a lot of our oscillators is we have both a base frequency and a modulation input. And this modulation input is additive. There's a couple things to know about this modulation input. It's not your sort of normal modulation input. It's not through zero. Like, it's not a normal FM sort of. You can't use the same principles as like your normal FM approach, but it works and it does some cool stuff. And so we can absolutely use that for vibrato easily. So that one's an easy one to put together. And then harmonics fall off. We'll have to revisit. We'll have to visit that later.
There's also the glide input on the triangle node there that we can use for the. I don't remember what the slide. I think. Frequencies.
We could potentially. Well, I can't control the curve on that, right?
Probably not, but do we need that? Maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we get more interesting results if we've got a curve. So here's probably how I would approach it. Is an AD envelope. Oh, actually, let me do
LFO.
I'll just start with float. We'll see what that gets us. And then LFO. And we will want to do a float map. And this will be Actually, what I'm realizing is that this value might zipper too much. Like it might because it's hertz, and that's a
Yeah.
much more fine value. We might notice zippering. So I'm thinking we might have to do everything in audio. Does that make sense? If we want like a smooth modulation.
Yeah.
And then we have a map. And so then we'll have our sort of base frequency, and then we'll have our slide map. So here will be our like I guess we could do something like this where it's like, okay, let me just turn this to input. Go. This, and then we use this as the starting point, right? Or I guess this is going to be additive, so I guess it would be always 0. Right, because we're going to be going to the modulation. Then we could do a sine wave generator. And then add these together. Oh, let's map this too, actually, because we have our depth control. Actually, it's just a single control. Let's do a multiply by float, so we can scale it. And then we want this to start out on play also. Okay. And we'll just use the decay leg of the envelope generator. So that'll start with at 1, 2, 0. So our map will be reversed. And then we have our what did we call it? We called it I don't want these clamp these inputs. Don't clamp it. What did we decide to call this? This was the filter cutoff, which I didn't like, or the frequency cutoff, which I hated. The frequency end or the maybe pitch end, something like that. And then we could go 0 for now. 0 to 1. And these are added. Yes, that's good. Okay. Just wanted to make sure this wasn't scaling against this the LFO. And then here, let's do something like 5 hertz. And then let's give it... so here's an interesting one. Do we want normalized values? Oh, I can't hear you.
Oops, there we go. I think it'd be easier for our widgets
If they're normalized.
if everything was normalized and we don't have to do any remapping and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. All right. That's so then we're gonna have to do the mapping in here.
Perfect.
So that's something to keep in mind. And then we'll have to think about what are good mapped values. So yeah, so for this one, 0 to 1 could be what about bipolar values? Should we just assume like half is the...
Yeah, it would be easier to just say 0.5 is 0.
Okay. All right. Then yeah, this could be. Let's do. Oh, well, we got our frequency map too. Hold on a second. This is interesting because now we're sort of. So this is important actually because what we're imposing here with this mapping, like this intermediate mapping, is that we are imposing a set of effectively design parameters, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, I'll be like, well, what's the lowest this should be able to go? And maybe I'm like, oh, you shouldn't be able to go maybe lower than 60 hertz, and maybe no more than I don't know, like 1600 hertz or something like that. So that is gonna affect. And then this, I will probably, maybe we should have an internally mapped, right? So in other words, internal base frequency. So we have like a post normal mapped converted value, and then I can reuse that as the we're gonna take actually we'll just do this. Multiply by -1. So this has a range that is parameterized by the value that is input as a frequency. So if they have some frequency value, whatever it is, they don't know what it is. Whatever that is, that's mapped to. And then where our max low is going to be the full range, and then the max up is going to be probably whatever's left over. So we're just using that as like the constraints on the pitch range, and then we'll do the same for the depth control. So we have LFO depth, and then we will use that as our cool. So if we have, let me put time on the board here. So with our depth down like that.
I don't hear anything.
Oh, you don't hear anything?
It might be just.
Because I'm not sharing sound like a boss.
Maybe the stream can hear that. I'm not sure. But
I think the stream can hear it.
Okay.
Well, we'll see. Maybe they'll complain. I'll be like, I don't hear anything. Okay, and then. Well, now you hear my noise suppression off.
Yep.
Yep. You're like, yep. Let me turn my fan off. There we go.
It's fine.
It's all right. I'll just bake. That's fine. They hear it. Okay. So yeah, here, let's do it again. So actually, where's my envelope here? 0 to 1, 0 to oh yeah, okay, yeah. Well, I did, yeah, whatever. Anyway. What do you think?
I heard it.
Is it good?
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Is the pitch doing like we expected to? Let me see. This is Oh yeah, we put oh, I put 0 in here. So this should be 0 to 0. Oh wait, this 0 is oh right. The input should be zero point 0.5. That's what we decided. The bipolar values should be
Yeah,
zero
yeah.
point 0.5. Yeah. So that's what threw me off there. Yeah, there you go. Cool. All right. So that's nominal. And then if we went if we go 0, then it'll be full range down. Oh, that was not. And if we go 1, is it down? Yeah, okay. Oh, maybe that's what I. Yeah, okay. Oh, we're doing. Oh, that's interesting. I accidentally did. Um. Wait. 1. Oh, we're starting at 1. Oh, actually, here's what we do. This is what this is the this is what I got wrong here. We got to go from 1 to 0. So 1 to 0 is start to end. So that was it. There we go. So now we're ending at the like indicated target. That's what we called it. We called it pitch target.
Mhm.
There we go. Okay. So now when pitch target is 0, it should go down. There we go. And when it's 0.5, it should not do anything. Yep. All right. Okay. So, oh yeah, go ahead.
Should I get started on some widgets?
Ooh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Do you want
Okay,
to?
cool. I've already
Yeah.
started, so
All
it's great.
right.
uh, yeah, I'm just setting up. I've got my slider here.
Oh, hold on. Let me share. Let me share what you're showing. Do you want to just? There you go. Yeah, I guess we can kind of see that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make two widgets for controlling these values, and one's gonna be the slider, and then I've got another one that is gonna be a knob. And both of these I've got parented to this widget, which just has a parameter name in there for now. But this is where we can choose if we want to represent it as a slider or a knob, and then we can make up our mind later. We don't have to lock ourselves in. So,
Yeah.
um, yep, not much going on over here. But I didn't know what to call it, so I just called it sound generator. And this is where I'm going to make a list of these parameter widgets,
Yeah.
and just got to add my list widgets here. And so now I've got, if I fill it up, probably need to compile.
Let me see if I can zoom in on. I think there's a way to hide me. Um. Oh, maybe I do this. Let me stop sharing real quick. And then I think I can hide myself. Hide self. There we go. Okay, now we've got you on full screen. So there we go.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
So here's just kind of a list of parameters. These are all the sliders. And it might be easier just to do it all sliders. And then if we want to do knobs later, we can figure something out with that. But
Hey, you were the slider critic.
I mean, I know. And now I'm like, well, how am I going to make a list? I mean, we could avoid just doing lists and just make a bespoke layout. But if we wanted to make it more extensible, it'd be probably
Yeah,
easier just
this
to
I
do a
like
list.
that.
But
Yeah. So that's a real. So why don't you talk about that a little bit? What that means? What is your?
yeah,
Because you made a decision that I think is pretty important, and I think that
yes.
people should. That's something that we should talk about.
Let's say, we get 4 hours into this, and Dan wants to add a harmonizer, some
Yeah.
some fancy thing, and we need like 12 new parameters, and um, we want to be able to populate the widget pretty quickly without having to, you know, copy and paste our widget and change all the names and stuff. Ideally, it would be set up in a data-driven way where we just provide uh, the widget like a list of parameters. Like here's the name of the inputs for our MetaSound. Give me a slider and a knob for it. And since it's all normalized 0 to 1, we don't have to worry about scaling it. All of these sliders, widgets by default are 0 to 1, and I can change stuff here. We can do all sorts of like fancy color stuff with these new material widgets that were added. I don't know what version those were released in, but
I think it's
um,
5.4. Can you actually just, because I don't think so? This is actually, a lot of people might not have messed around with UMG. Can you talk about like editor widgets and all that sort of stuff? Can you sort of walk us through like what like
sure.
where you are so far and how you got there and like yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so in the content browser, I just made some new assets under editor utilities. There's an editor utility widget. And if you make a new one, it's going to ask you what do you want your root widget to be? I usually go with none for now, but stack box is good, or like a vertical box. Those are like my top three choices. Um, and then I just make one. And the first thing I always do, like this is just a habit, is I'll go to this top right corner where it says fill screen, and I'll just change it to custom, because we're not making like a game UI, like a HUD that's going to sit on like a full screen thing. We want our widget to be reactive, and you know change its layout according
Right.
to the size of the widget. Um, and yeah, I guess over on the left side here, we've got all sorts of different widgets that we can add to our widget. I'm going to add the one that I already created, the sound generator list. I should rename this before I do that. I'm going to call it sound generator parameter list. And now I'm going to use that by searching parameter list. And you can see I've got my sliders and knobs and stuff, but I want it hasn't, I don't think I updated the name of it, but so now this is inside of my main widget, but we're probably going to want like, I don't know, we can put like text if we want like the title of our thing at the top. Maybe we want like a button. We can have buttons that we can add functionality to. And we might even want like a 2 column layout, right? So let's do a little organization here. I'm going to do a wrap with a horizontal box right here. And we'll put the button can go in like our second row. And then I'm going to make a vertical box. So this is kind of like a grid-like layout. And if I go ahead and set these up properly so that they fill, now I've got 2 columns, and then I can set this to fill, and now it looks a lot more like what I want. Um, and we can change the size of these by, let's say our left column will do like 20%. Man, that's kind of small, so maybe 40%, and then I don't know if those ratios are quite right. I think it's like, I don't know. I just changed the number until it works. So um, sometimes you don't need to know everything.
Yeah, working with widgets is a lot like reminds me a lot of like web dev,
Yeah.
CSS and yeah, like building out web pages with like everything is like divs inside of divs, and then you're like this div has this width and uses this padding and all that sort of stuff. And I feel like all that stuff is there. Like there's padding and there's margins and there's you
Yeah.
know yeah. I just started getting into WordPress, well, not for fun, but for utility, and that was one of those
Mhm.
things that's like revisiting that whole, all those parameters are there. But I mean, it kind of makes sense. Some of it is very practical, obviously. Like we're
Yeah.
talking about a visual layout, and that's a huge part of UI, right? So that makes sense.
Yeah. So now I'm just using a wrap box because we're going to want a bunch of different buttons here. If we're going off the BFXR stuff, we want like to choose the different, what were the buttons on?
Mm.
Like just the different wave
They have
types and stuff.
presets. They're like a list of presets, and then randomize and yeah. I mean, all the buttons could be consolidated into one side. They have buttons kind of everywhere.
Sure.
They had like play, they had like play buttons. They had export buttons.
Okay. Yeah, so like everything right now is just kind of placeholder as far as like it just has text block and stuff. These widgets here, we'll put the name of the parameter and make it look nice. I don't really like how it's scaling right now, so I'll probably fix the width of this column. Um, and I can do that. Figure
Well, and
out
that's
where
the other
I.
thing is like, is the editor, because like BFXR's layout is pretty vertical, right? It's very like web pagey, I guess, and center web
Yeah.
page. And so it could be that our like yeah. So talk about that real quick. Actually, maybe you can even talk about editor. I don't know if I've ever talked about editor widgets before. Maybe once. So that's a good one to sort of talk about real quick.
Can you rephrase that real quick? I
Yeah,
got.
what are editor widgets?
Oh, yeah, sure.
What are
I
editor
mean,
utilities?
they're widgets that you can open without having to go into Pi or something. So I can run it just by clicking the button up top, and it's running it. Just need to figure out kind of what's going on here with my wrap box. Doesn't want to like stack them how I want, so I'm still going to work on that. Going to add some border colors here to kind of separate the visual elements, and so it's not just one gray blob. But we use these all the time for you know monitoring gameplay parameters and stuff. Like we can uh, make a widget that shows us our control bus values, and we can monitor in real time when control bus mixes are activated. And we can, I mean, I think 5.5 or 5.6 is adding in MetaSounds. You can put a widget inside of your MetaSound asset and put the you know put a nice UI in front of your sound designer so they don't have to look at the graph or like the preset view, where it's like a long node that just has
A
all of the
long, long
spaghetti going
node.
into it. Um, so yeah, there's like widgets are hugely useful for tech audio. I would highly recommend if you're building lots of tools or want to make things that are easier for designers to work with, familiarizing yourself with UMG is like super invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I find UMG is a really powerful prototyper as well. Like I find it's useful. It
Mhm.
doesn't take much. There's like, it's like five blueprint commands and you've got your UMG interface up on screen. So it's like really easy to just add to the viewport if you are like jumping, like if you, for example, you got a system and you're like you want to do some robust debugging or robust like prototyping or something like that, you can sort of make up the difference between like maybe you haven't connected it to gameplay yet, but you can
Yeah.
jump in the game and then load up your UI and just sort of like start tweaking values or
It's really nice for even just testing things before you get into Pi
mm-hmm.
or without having to like hook things up to gameplay. You can just call your events
Yeah.
from a widget, and that can be a super fast and powerful way to iterate. Um, don't really know what I'm doing yet. I'm just kind of picking some colors and um, my entry widgets for this list need backgrounds and stuff, but let's just keep adding stuff.
Cool. Well,
I usually take this eyedropper and choose a color from the editor so
that's
everything's
why
kind
it
of
always looks
matches the
nice.
same. Um, I don't like this layout yet, but I'm under pressure right now. There's too
So
many
there's
people
people
watching me.
watching you. How many people are watching right now? Let's see. Maybe no one is watching. There's 13 people here. You're fine.
Okay, well, I still
Yeah.
feel like
Damien Kaspauer is here, and he's talking about
ooh.
actual like food pie. So we're good.
Making me hungry. Yeah.
We're good. Good to see everyone here. Good to see you too, Damien.
Yeah. How's everyone doing in chat? What do you think so far?
Would you be able to demonstrate calling sounds using the widgets without going to Pi sometime? Yeah, we're definitely gonna be doing that. Right? Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, we're not gonna. We won't need
Yeah.
to run this in Pi since.
Well, that's another one. Maybe we should add some basic transport buttons.
Ooh,
Mm. We could also just add buttons that say play.
I keep waffling on how I want to organize. I'm adding some padding now just to get all the visual elements looking a bit nicer.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that I do find a little finicky working in UMG is that to do it properly, you almost always need to have like sub widgets, like your own sort of like mini widget, because you want to do the like this sort of thing, like here
What's
where
going on
you're like
here?
modifying the like the single slider widget is like you have to build this single slider widget so that when you do want to change something, it changes all of them and not just having to like do like like copy and paste parameter values or do something multi-select. Multiple selection in the like hierarchy is really annoying. Yeah, we got some
True.
color going on.
I don't like these colors, but
Well, it's
I'm very self-critical of my widgets, but
all
I'm gonna default those back so I don't have to. My
right,
eyes
all
are
right,
bleeding.
all right, all right. Okay. All right. So shall we get back to the MetaSound maybe while you're deciding on colors?
Yeah. I mean, we at this point, I think we should start thinking about our data layout and how we're going to structure that so we can communicate from the widget to the MetaSound, vice versa.
Yeah, so we have well, so right, so we have well, so okay, so here's my feeling is okay, so you're doing this whole extensible thing, and this is a good question because I was gonna approach it from like just a simple data struct.
Hmm.
We could do a data struct per module,
Data struct per module.
but we're also planning on a very simple architecture. Like we aren't because
I
here's the thing.
think,
So like right now, if we're still using BFXR as the model, the only thing that swaps out is the generator, like the primary generator, right?
hmm,
And I think we could um have like we could do some other stuff. Like for example, we could have some fun with like say the vibrato. Let's say the vibrato is also a swappable generator, right? That could be interesting.
hmm.
But otherwise, I'm not seeing a lot of modularity in the architecture. And so the data layout so far I don't see it as too modular. You know what I'm saying? That's I don't
Yeah. I think we could just do do a struct for each parameter and then have an array of structs. Or
What do you mean a struct per parameter? Or do you mean per like node? Or do you mean like
mm,
parameter group?
yeah, like try and group things up a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so here let me switch back over and we can see I've started to do that. Let me share my screen again with you so you can see. So you can see here I started to group sections, right? So like here's
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the generator, doot doot, and it has it's like right now we have only two inputs, right? But they're not external. Only one of them is sort of external, but we have like an intermediary mapping. This sort of thing could be swappable. This is sort of an interesting idea. We could have like mapping functions, but I don't know if we want to get into that yet. But that's something that is a possibility.
Mm.
And then we have our pitch slide sort of module and our vibrato control module. And then there is like a sort of special way that they're combined. But they could just be part of a class of module that always gets summed together, for the mod.
Yeah.
Like this could just be like, we could call it like an FM class because they modulate frequency. I don't know if that's useful yet, but a classification could be useful.
Yeah.
Because this could be one of those situations where we could have like an open-ended architecture where it's like, I want to add all of these X, Y, and Z, like multiple FM class modulators, and then we just in the builder API, we could just dynamically sum them together. So we just construct a sort of summing network or whatever in the builder API for that. That one I think is pretty easy to do. So maybe we'll see more stuff like that. We could do the same thing actually with the amplitude envelope. Like we could also have an LFO that controls amplitude. So actually, let me do that now. Let's just add that. Like it's not part of the BFXR setup, but let's say heck with it. And then we have this one. This one will be sort of like, I guess. Okay, this one will. Yeah, this is easy. Okay, here we go. So our min value is 0. So we just don't want this to be bipolar values, and then we can just add there, and then we have our depth control. We need our depth control here, so we need a multiply to scale it. And what's nice is this one actually can be just a simple, call it. Okay, well, let's call this AM class. AM class. Although this one, I think we always want to be there. Actually, I think let's just keep, okay, I'll just leave this here for now. But there's something to think about is the overall envelope should probably always be there. But, go AM class. Amplitude LFO, and then this will be the amp LFO depth, and we'll just put this at 0 for now and see. There we go. Works. Success. Cool. So that's, we got feature creep already.
It's bound to happen.
No, this is not part of the spec. This is what happens when you have developers with no oversight. Let's get a producer in here. So the next thing on the list is the pitch jump, which is interesting. I feel like the pitch jump, that's interesting. It's a really interesting one because they do pitch jump repeat speed, pitch jump amount. They have pitch jump 1 and pitch jump 2. And I think that's just literally for that coin sound, da da da, like that kind of thing. And the amount needs to be a scalar, I feel, because that's definitely one of those things where it's like you want those very Pythagorean like pitch relationships.
Yeah.
You want to be able to dial those in. So it could be something where we do like a single jump max values, maybe double frequency or something like that. And that could be very simple. Maybe this is modulating our internal base frequency. I guess this should be a separate module. Maybe this is something like this. And then we do for the stepping, I feel like there should be our like a subdivision of our time, like our duration. Because otherwise we'll just have time values that like fall outside of the like total duration. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll call this duration. And then let's take that knobs here for this. We don't need that. And then we'll maybe we'll do a multiply by do we have, I don't think the pitch jump onset, pitch jump speed. Pitch jump speed feels like a, oh, that could be our glide. That's what you were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we could do that for glide. We'll call it our pitch jump speed. And I forget what the 0 to 1. Okay. Well, it's just like a weird like slew, so we'll just roll with it. And then I think I guess we could do like a float route, maybe? Is that a little crazy?
Maybe. I'm not a fan of this node.
Yeah, I know. Me neither.
It has caused me many headaches.
Let me see. And then we could do trigger delay. Oops. We'll do a sort of cascade of them. And kind of like that. And then we'll do the duration. Let's do times 33. Oh, hold on there. Like that. Okay, and then we do a multiply. Oh wait, sorry. Wait, hold on a second. Do we want to multiply? This is no. This is a. Oh yeah, we were gonna do like a. Yeah, okay. Let's do a multiply. Yeah, okay, multiply. Yeah, because we want to scale it, or maybe that should just be the value itself. Let's do that. We'll just set the value. Oh, okay, here's what we're gonna. No, I don't like that. Yeah, okay. Heck, I'm gonna do a multiply. And hopefully the glide will slew that input value. And then for these other values, we'll do a map, a float map, which is from 1 to 2. Could just be like multiplying it by 2. But I get a clamp out of it, so I guess I'll try that out. We've got node creep is what we've got here. Okay. And then we need to have pitch jump. Jump 1. And pitch jump 2. All right, so if both of those are 0, we should have no pitch movement. And if we have... Oh, you know what? I didn't do anything here. So that would be... Yeah, there we go. Oh, we didn't even... Yeah, so this was... Okay, hold on a second. Okay, let's try this again. Now we should have no pitch movement. I didn't wait long enough. There's the third one. Okay, cool. And the only other thing that I can think of is this jump value. Probably the second one should be additive. Yeah, something like that. So the second one is that much higher. Okay, double check. Okay, and then when we go, let's say halfway and somewhere around halfway. Okay, now let's make our duration real short, like half a second. Yay. And maybe we'll do... Should we go for, like, see if we can recreate the coin sound?
It's your stream.
It's my stream.
It's your court appearance.
Maybe you let it ring out a little bit more. Let's do point, like a quarter second there. That's kind of silly. All right. I don't know. Now I want to dial it in. This is the danger of this work, is when you start like...
Oh yeah.
When you start you're like, oh, now I can play with it a little bit. But we need to parameterize this one. So we forgot the attack time. Let's do this attack. On attack time. Let's do it without the space. Why did I do that? Whoops. I accidentally made a variable. Input. Decay time. Oop. And release time. Now we got knobs. A little bit more fun. Oh, and this is actually, we've been sort of neglecting this. Oh, I guess that's sort of the punch. Okay. Well, maybe we'll put that in there. Oh, that could be our compressor. Just the sustain level. But let's do it without that. So we've got this. Just do this. And then, like, I don't know, like that. And then let's go duration. Let's make it real tight. 1/10 of a second. There you go. It's not bad.
That's pretty good.
Success. Started to come together. So now we got to call this. What is this? This weird module here is, I guess, our jump stages. Pitch jump stages. So that's actually that could be its own class, actually. If we can figure out how to make each additional stage like a modular add, then I'm going to add that as a to-do here. To-do. Because that'd be cool if we could just sort of have our own, like, arbitrary number of pitch jumps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be neat. Okay, how are you doing over there in
I'm just
in
over here
UI
in
land?
Widget land.
Widget land? Do you want me to show folks what you're up to? I think we're getting near our cutoff time.
Yeah, you can show.
All right, hold on a second. Let me
just doing
switch over. I've got all these windows I gotta Okay, this one. There we go. Cool. Now they can see what you're doing.
Okay, so I've since added like a checkbox so we can lock our parameters. I've added the value here so we can see the values. Um, and I think now I've actually set up, where do I have it here? I have a struct where I've got parameter numbers. And in the entry widget here, I have started doing the blueprint work just to set the initial starting values for the name and for the starting parameter slider value and stuff.
Do you want
This
to
will
zoom
read.
in and just sort of walk us through some of these blueprints?
Sure. So for all list entry widgets, you need to implement this interface called where is it? Oh, it's in my parent. So I have a parent widget here. So I guess I'm inheriting it. Inherited widgets or interfaces. It's a user object list entry. And you add this to your widget and then you can use it as like it'll spit out a bunch of them when you have a list widget. I can change the number down here. You set your entry widget class to
Is that how it
slider.
shows up in the class dropdown?
What do you mean?
Or is that how the widget shows up? Because you're inheriting that.
I don't know what you mean.
So so I guess hold on a second. So the
Yeah.
does the child widget need to have the interface, or is it the list hosted
Oh, so
widget?
it's the widget that goes into the list that you're printing
Right. Yeah.
multiple copies
So
of.
yeah, and that's the class that's selected there, right? In that
Yep.
dropdown.
So my slider class,
Is
and
that
then
does that slider class does it filter widgets that implement that?
yes,
Okay, yeah,
and
that's what I was asking. Yeah,
it's like this is my abstract class, so I should
right.
probably mark that as abstract so it doesn't show up in the list. Um, where is it? There we go.
Cool.
Then back over here, it's gone.
Nice. Very
And
nice.
so if I had a knob, I would show it here, but I'm just going to stick with the slider
Mm-hmm.
for the sake of time. Um, and so now I think if I run this, we've actually got our data starting to show up here. I
Nice.
can, well, it's not showing the value, but it's writing to the data asset that or it's not a data asset. This is just a U object that has a struct for parameter data. And this struct is just a MetaSound input name to a MetaSound float value input. And so
Oh,
this
that's
is the,
what you meant by a struct for each of our parameters.
yeah.
I see. I see. I see.
And so then I've got just an array of this stuff where I can fill it out in the widget. Um, and if we want to add new parameters, I can just add it to the array. We can just say like test param, and I can start it at like 0.5 as the starting value. Let's see
Right.
if I hooked that up. Yeah, so now it's
Very
like
nice.
halfway up the slider. Test param's my name. Um, not too much functionality here, but it's coming along pretty quickly. So
Yeah. So the goal, if I understand correctly, is that we'll be able to like auto populate this list with our data, right? Is that the idea?
yeah, we can you'll be able to click randomize and it'll randomize all the sliders, write it to the data, and then when you click play or preview or audition or whatever, like to play the sound,
Mm-hmm.
we'll just pass all of the parameters into the MetaSound,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll get to hear what it sounds like.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All
So
right. It's coming along.
I'll
How are
do
we on time? I feel like we're close. We got about 10 minutes.
okay.
How's everyone doing? Are you hanging in there? We've dropped down to 10. So I guess that says everything, right?
I mean,
We lost a quarter of our audience.
it's a long stream.
It is a long stream. Well, the hope is that this is, these are going to end up as like videos on demand, VODs.
Yeah.
That's the term the kids
That's the
are.
lingo.
That's the
Yes.
lingo. And yeah, so hopefully that'll just be always available to folks. Oh, you know what I did is I forgot to hit record on Zoom. Whatever.
Oh no.
Whatever. This is flying by the seat of our pants. For those of you who don't know, right before the stream started, my audio device was not coming up. Like I was not getting anything on my audio device, and so I had to like reset it. I have like a weird KVM switch when I switch between my work machine and I think it put a little bit too much stress on my peripherals today. But yeah, cool. All right. Well, um I did the step up thing, blah 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 blah. Oh, there's the square duty if we have a square. Ah, repeat. That one I feel like should be like number of repeats. And what is their repeat speed? Then we have a flanger and we've got a low pass filter and I I think there's some other effects like chorus and delay and stuff like that. Let me see if they the other thing that they do, which is kind of interesting to think about, if we are to build one of these, they have also a mixer. And the mixer allows you to combine. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm looking at this interface. And the other thing that they do is they have a history. So we'll also want to think about that, like a list of like buttons with like delete options or remove options or whatever, and probably like a scrollable box.
Holy moly.
And it'll have preset history. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me show it here. So this is the mixer side, and they have multiple presets.
I think you're still showing my screen, by the way.
Huh? Oh, I always
Everyone's been watching me this whole
People are
time.
like, well, it's interesting. You're blueprinting away. But yeah, if you look at if if you see this, the mixer side, and it has volume, individual auditions, and you can play them together. Sorry, I just thought I saw something. And then they have a history of all of your presets.
Okay. Yeah, that's
And
doable.
yeah, so like one of the buttons is that on the whole was that on the whole time? Let me see. Oh, that wasn't available. Okay, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. So when you make changes, let's see if he does it. This person did not explore that part of it. But it seems like they have like a button that's like basically saves the setting into the history.
Mm.
And so that you have this sort of like running history as you're playing around with the tool. And each of the selections have like a little X for, I assume, to removing it, deleting it. And
Sure.
there's an option to duplicate it. So I assume that you could select one and then sort of copy, like duplicate it and have multiples, and then you can like probably like tweak the duplicate or whatever and save that. Interesting.
I like it.
Yeah. So this is actually, it's got a lot of interesting utility. The other thing that we haven't talked about, which we could do also, is actually spit out a wave file, right? Like we have the wave writer node.
Yeah.
So technically we could also not just spit out a MetaSound, but we could also spit out a wave file that could then be used That looks really nice. I want to show what people what you do. This we should have been watching it the whole time.
I mean, we were watching for
I
quite
mean,
a
you
while.
made it from scratch. It was cool to watch it, come manifest.
Yeah, I'm just getting the history stuff that we're talking about now worked on.
Yeah.
Um, so I've got a list over here. I'm going to add my history. Oh, I didn't add the interface yet.
Right. This is what we were just talking about.
Yes, I need to. Well, it says it's implemented. Did I not compile maybe? Where is it?
Do you have to compile this one? Yeah, you got a question mark on that one.
Ah, good eye.
Uh,
There. No, that's fine. It's because I didn't select one. Nope, that's not it. I did dupe this asset, so it could be not liking that so much. I don't know. Take the camera off me and I'll figure it out.
well, we're just about out of time here.
Okay.
Well, I guess we got 5 more minutes.
What is going on here?
We can where am I?
Maybe
Okay,
if
yeah,
I
I'll take the camera off.
Oh, it's because it's abstract. I duplicated the abstract.
Okay, put the camera back on.
See, I just
well, this is what we talked about. We talked about
exactly
working through the problems. Oh, that looks it's starting to look nice. It's a little crowded looking.
It's something,
yeah.
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 It's all
adjustable.
No,
it's cool.
I am just kind of ripping off the layout from the video
fine.
you posted.
Yeah. Save and duplicate. Let's do a duplicate. Oh no, your save. Sorry. So there's history commands too, right? So that's going to be its own set of buttons.
History. Oh,
right, because it's like the save we were doing as like save the MetaSound, right? Like that's what we're sort of thinking.
Yeah.
And then we also want
do export maybe.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that export. And then for the history, we could have a set of buttons that are just like save to history or something like that, And then and then duplicate. Yeah. Maybe duplicate. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, something like that. Cool. Yeah. I think this is pretty good. We basically did the whole I think this is a good stopping point, I feel. So let's review real quick here. So cuz there's maybe some more stuff that we could add to make it cool. But yeah, so on the let me just swap back to the here. What I was working on. So we have we can set the frequency between a given range, and then we can sort of have these this fun little jump thing to make fun little coin pickups and or ring pickups, whatever sounds. We've got pitch slide and did we do oh, I guess pitch target was kind of like our depth here. So we could do like oh, you know what? This the timing of this should also be constrained by the duration. This should be a function of the duration. Interesting. There we go. Yeah, so there's our up if we're going up, and then if we're going down we could go down while we're jumping up. It's already making interesting sounds. And then probably we need a duration to be a function of well, that's there. So here's our overall amplitude envelope. We have our AM. Oh, we didn't test the glide. So let's just real quick, we'll do our pitch target. We'll set that back to 0.5, which is center point. And then let's make the duration a little bit longer just so we can hear. Let's make it 3 seconds long. So we've got a second each. And
Mhm.
We could decide to do like multi- multiples, some sort of like Pythagorean like simple multiples
Mhm.
instead. That was okay. Let's go full glide and see what that does. It's all right. It's good. It's not something that we necessarily parameterize. We could build our own glide, but this is not bad. I mean, it's pretty decent. Okay, well, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. We can revisit glide if we want to, do something else. Because
Yeah.
we could just do like an interp on the output of the like pitch jump stage mod anyway. And that'd be just as good. Now, if we wanted to we could do an integer value. How do we want to do that? Because it's really divisors of the frequency, right? So like add half, add a third, add quarter, like that sort of stuff. Anyway, that's something else we may want to revisit. Is sort of making that more like a musical sound. But maybe that's fine. Maybe it's just something you have to dial in. Or maybe that is itself a tunable, like the function is something we could add, where it's like, raw values versus more musical intervals. But yeah, so that's sort of the overview on this side, vibrato, and yeah, we got something kind of cool. So even if you just made this on your own, you could have fun just putting values in and making weird retro sounds. But I think it'll
Yeah.
be much more satisfying once we plug these two things
Mhm.
together.
Yeah.
So I'll stop I'll return to our view, like our sort of person view, and I think I have to add. How do I do this? Well, I stop sharing. Oh, there we go. And then I add myself back. There we go. Now we're both on the screen. Okay, cool. So, first of all, thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you, Eric. For
Yeah. It's fun.
Do you feel good about maybe doing this again next week?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No.
Okay.
Like I almost feel like I just got into the zone and now it's like over.
I
So
know, right? Yeah. So, well, and we could always play around with like in the future. We could play like I feel like we should just do this one maybe in little 2-hour chunks. But that
Mhm.
because we'd have a lot of setup this time around. But maybe in the future we'll try another one like on a weekend where we can say go longer. But
Yeah.
I feel like 2 hours is pretty decent.
Yeah. Gotta pace ourselves, you know.
Yeah, we got to pace ourselves and the audience. The
Yeah,
fine
that's true.
folks who showed up.
It'll
Thank
be
you.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think maybe the like maybe next time we'll be able to like connect them. I don't know. We'll have to think about how we want to do that because we got two different projects on two different computers.
Yeah. I mean, the widget can pump out all of the inputs into the MetaSound. Um, so I think it's yeah, mainly kind of on my side for
Yeah.
figuring out the data organization and stuff. But
So maybe I'll send you the MetaSound U asset and the sort of like prototype MetaSound, and then you can kind of like plug it in and see
yeah, yeah.
see where we get from there.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you all again, and hope you all have a great week, and we'll catch you later. Feel free to ask questions in the comments. I think other comments. I don't know if they're comments on a live stream. I actually don't know.
Yeah, there's a chat, right?
Well, there's a
Or is
chat,
that
but I don't know if they're comments. I guess there's comments maybe afterward. I don't know.
I think you can enable it like if it's on your channel.
Okay, well, we'll see. Think about comments, manifest questions, and hopefully you can ask them. And if not, save them for later. You could just come back next week and ask them again, or for the first time, I guess. All right. Good night. The awkward time when I got to find the thing. And that's right. All right. We're off.
We're off. Oh, we did it.